it looks like we're having a good time maybe, but like 90% of this is just pure frustration, and like 10% of it is actually like putting stuff together. All right, we started cutting some of our headers. These are 2x8s, and we're gonna do kind of this style header where we're gonna insulate in here. So this will get another 2x6 on the bottom, and we'll put a piece of 2-inch foam in there.
This is our nailing surface.
And yeah, the reason for this is so you have a nailing surface for your trim and drywall or whatever you're going to put on for interior siding.
It's heavy.
Alright, we're going to stop for today, but we got 3 headers built, and we'll pick it back up tomorrow. We got to go get some more lumber because I mismeasured how much lumber we needed for headers. We need more 2x8s, but that's fine. Everything's a learning experience. Alright, so we're gonna start framing up our first wall. We pre-cut our king studs, and we're just laying them out, and then we'll cut our jack studs. And then we will make our window headers, our window assemblies, put our headers in, obviously. Then put our studs in. Because our headers ended up being pretty beefy with the 2x6s on each side, we decided we'll just push them up a little. The average header height is like 6'10", but our cripples ended up being like 2 inches, so they were going to be hard to nail on without them splitting. So we're just going to butt the header up to the top plate, which is fine. So all our windows will sit like 2 inches taller. Shouldn't be a big deal. And the windows on this wall, except for the kitchen window, is they're pretty long, so they're only going to be like 2 feet off the floor as it is, but this will be fine. So we're going to go ahead and place the other headers, and then we'll cut our trimmers and then nail the assembly together. This is our door opening. So another thing about in this climate, our snow load, like maximum, it's like 70 pounds per square foot. So based on the header charts, you're supposed to put like 2 jack studs or trimmers, same thing, down from the header. So we had to make our headers like 6 inches wider than the rough opening versus the 3 inches, because this is going to be a 2-story house with the potential for 70 pounds per square foot snow load. So there's going to be a lot of framing in this wall, which is kind of a bummer because you get a lot of like thermal bridging. But that is what the header chart said that we needed 2 jack studs for like every window and door on this wall. So that was something new to me. I kind of like looked it up online just to see, and it's hard because a lot of people on the forums, like the building forums, they are building in parts of the country that don't get a lot of snow, so they're like, oh yeah, I always do, 1 jack stud, unless the opening's like 6 feet or more For this climate, you need the 2 trimmers. It's more lumber, but it is what it is, I guess. Second floor, we won't need that, so that'll be nice. So now we're going to measure out this distance for the jack stud at the bottom.
21 3/4.
Alright, and then we need to measure this distance. Should be 58 3/4. Are 2 jacks overkill? Probably. But it is the code around here.
Yeah, and we kind of nailed this together wrong. We should have put the jacks and the sill together first, because our nails aren't long enough to get through a king, the jack, and into the sill.
For the next one, this has been a good learning experience. For the next one, we will nail the jack assembly together. Alright, so there it is, all nailed up. I'm sure it weighs like twice as much as I do, but at least our house is probably not going to fall down because of weak structural components. Alright, we're a little premature to be putting windows in, but we brought one up here with us just to check and make sure all our rough opening measurements were good. Just like verify our math. And the window seems to fit pretty well.
Got plenty of wiggle room in there, so we can adjust it and shim it as needed.
Yep. So, I don't know, beginners, just making sure we're doing things right. We have all of our dining room windows framed, and now we're working on the door frame. The header was going to be too tall for the door to sit in, so we took the top off. Should be fine. So that'll just sit right against the top plate. This is our kitchen window, and it is kind of short and wide. But if we had set it at the height of the other windows, it would have been too high. It would have been like 54 inches off the ground, and we barely would have been able to see out of it. So we set this one like 42 inches up, or I think it was around like 45.5 from finish floor height, because the slab is our finished floor. And so that obviously brought the header down, and then we nailed our cripples on. So this one's just a little different, and then we have one here that we'll have to do the same thing with, because it's at the kitchen counter. We are putting in our nailing surface for our 2-stud corner. So the butt wall will butt into this stud and part of this, but some of this will stick out so we can nail whatever interior siding we're going to do. We got rained out yesterday, but we are back at it today. We need to put the window and all the windows and doors against the bottom plate where they belong, and then nail in the rest of the studs, nail on the top plate and the double top plate, and then this wall will be ready, and then we're going to frame this next long wall, and we'll have our neighbor come up with his tractor, and he can hopefully help us get these stood up, because this one's going to be impossible to stand up with just people power, unless we had like 20 people, which we don't. We are building a support beam. It's going to go in each side on the long walls. This will hold up the LVL around our staircase, which is, that LVL will be holding up part of a bedroom upstairs. So we're going to do 4 of these nailed together, which is probably overkill. We can probably do 3, but I did not have an engineer involved here, so I'd rather overdo it than underdo it.
And hopefully we're overdoing it and not underdoing it with 4.
Yeah. Alright, there's our very thick built up beam. There's a lot of lumber in this wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some of you are probably thinking thermal bridging, which is the right thing to be thinking, but we plan on doing exterior insulation to create a thermal break between this lumber and the outside, so that should at least help.
Yeah, I'm hoping. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
We got rained out yesterday. Big thunderstorm came through, so we had started nailing the top plate, but we had to stop because of that. So we'll continue nailing that, and then we'll put on the double top plate, and this wall will be ready, and then we'll start on the next long wall. Alright, everything is nailed off to the top and bottom plate, and now we're going to nail on the double top plate, and then this wall will be done. We have the double top plate nailed all the way to here where our wall is going to break, because we can't stand this wall up attached to that wall because that pipe right there is in the way, which is irritating. So when we stand this up, we'll nail it, and then we'll nail our next section on. But yep, there it is, and we'll put this stud in after it stands up. We'll have to toe nail it in because it's on a wall break. But yeah, this wall is done until we stand it up and can get the last few finishing touches on, but we're gonna start on the next wall now.
We just cut our first header. We're gonna try to cut all the pieces for this wall first and put the whole thing together in one go.
Taylor's working on this door frame. It's coming along nicely. We borrowed some pipe clamps from our neighbor, which is making things a lot easier. And I'm working on this big 4x4 window frame. It's going to be a nice view kind of out that way, aside from the outhouse and the solar shed, but it'll be fine. We have our window framed up, our door framed up, so now we're going through the pile looking for the straighter studs. We have a lot of like bowed studs and crooked studs, which is a little irritating, but we might end up bringing them back or something. We'll see. We can also cut them down for additional cripples or whatever. So that's what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna build our stud pack here like we did on the other side, and then we just lay out all our studs and nail the plates on. It's kind of late and we're hungry and tired, been a long day. So we cut all the studs and corners or channels, everything like that. So what we have left to do tomorrow is we need to nail this stud pack together and then go ahead and nail off all the studs. So that will be hopefully fairly quickly. And then we can stand these walls up, I'm hoping. So yeah, good day's work, lots of cutting.
It's shaping up to be another hot one today. A lot of sun, hence the, you know, this whole situation. Just started nailing on the studs for our second long wall, and Panda's just double checking the layout to make sure we're all good.
Alright, it's hot today, and we realized we found a mistake in our layout. We, well, a few mistakes, but we went from 16 on center from some, like, arbitrary location, so some of our studs are off by, like, an inch or half an inch, which probably won't be too much of an issue when we do our sheathing, because we're going to lay everything horizontally, so it just needs to line up on 8-foot increments, and the 8, the 16, and the 32 line up okay. But now we also made a mistake with our splicing of the top plate, because the double top plate needs to overlap a splice by 2 feet on each side, and we decided to break this right over a channel, so there's no way to do that overlap. So we have to get a new piece of top plate and mark it correctly. So it's just like, it looks like we're having a good time maybe, but like 90% of this is just pure frustration, and like 10% of it is actually like putting stuff together. It's not as rosy as it always looks. It's just the reality of trying to build your own house, so, and not really knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you know, this is kind of what we signed up for, so we like expected this. But this is the time when you check your work and you fix the mistakes that were made. Because if you don't, it's just gonna come back to haunt us later in this build. So, you know, despite the heat and the frustration, like, this is what has to get done. But it looks really nice, right?
Yeah,
it looks like we're doing good.
It looks good, but
and you know, it is probably like fine. I'm sure there's people that don't take the time to be as careful and precise with all this as we're being. Like, maybe we're being a little too picky, but you know, it's our first house. We're not sure what's acceptable to get away with, so we're trying to be as perfect as possible. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Hit a bit of a speed bump, and now we're trying to fix this top plate. Alright, we're back to nailing. We maybe have figured out a solution here.
maybe.
Stay tuned.
So it took us pretty much all day to get this wall figured out. It was a real pain in the butt, but we got everything nailed, and now we're nailing on the double top plate. We made our channel cuts, And this will be the last thing for this wall, and then we'll be ready to stand everything up. Everything always takes a lot longer than you think it will.
You're putting the sill seal on.
Yep.
What does sill seal do? So this is gonna keep air from getting in under our bottom plate, because a slab is never going to be 100% totally flat, and the seal, there's always going to be gaps between your bottom plate and a concrete slab. So you want to prevent air penetration with sill seal. And we will also be putting in liquid flash on the outside and probably the inside of the bottom plate, just to really make sure that our house is nice and tight. So that's what we're doing right now.
It has been a long 5 days framing up these walls, but we're ready to stand them. Gonna go talk to our neighbor and see if he can come up with his tractor and help us out. Probably have to move that wood pile, but we'll figure that out. So, exciting times. We have both the walls standing. Our neighbor was very helpful. We definitely couldn't have done that without either him or a team of like 10 people, which we don't know that many people here yet. So now we have these walls braced on the inside and the outside. The way we did the inside braces was we just ran a 16-foot 2x6 and we like scabbed in a piece here, and then we braced it off so like this can't shift at all either way because it's between the bottom plates. So when our neighbor was here, we kind of just quickly put in the braces, and right now we need to just get the wall level, so we're gonna do that. And then probably just prepare for the next walls going up. Double check our top and bottom plate so we don't run into issues like we did on these long walls. And then we're going to be heading out for a few days, so we won't be able to work on anything, but we'll be ready for next time.